Hi everyone, this is my first time making a YouTube video, so please forgive any imperfections, but I just wanted to quickly share my review of Soul School by Amber O'Neal Johnston. So this is a book that just came out, and I think it was just released not up to a week ago, but I had the pleasure of being on Amber's launch team, and so I was able to read this book online and just get on conversations with her and with other women about the book. And I thought, okay, since this is new and some people may be debating whether it's worth their money or their time, I thought I would give my honest opinion. And so I just wanted to start with the structure of the book. So if you've ever read other classics like Honey for a Child's Heart or maybe Read Aloud Family, you recognize some of the telltale book list type books. And so Amber has divided this book into two sections. So she has her beginning half where she has various sections about the importance of Black books, and that section is so lovely because what Amber is able to do that I think is quite unique is, on one hand, explain to the reader why it is important that we have a separate book list book that is for Black books, and at the same time she's also able to share her heart about the beauty and wonders of Black culture without coming off as condescending or angry. And one of my favorite chapters in that book, I think in that half, is one that's called Intangible Assets. And in this chapter, Amber talks about just the lovely little things in Black culture that people may not recognize if they're reading these books by themselves, or even if they have Black family and Black friends. Like, for instance, there's a bit about nicknames in the Black community, and she talks about the beauty of these things and how some of these things are reflected in the books she chooses. And so as you're reading through that first half, some people might just want to skip over to the end and like, okay, give me the book list. But those chapters are really integral for you to see Amber's heart about why she chose certain books. And being on her launch team, we got to have certain conversations with her, and my heart really clicked with something she said about how hard it was for her to find Black books that were just about regular life, no drugs, no traumatic events. And not that these things don't happen to Black children, white children, but that she was really looking for life-giving books, or as she calls them, I forgot what she says, but she doesn't say necessarily life-giving, but she uses another term, and if I remember I'll pop it here. But it's just so lovely. She's trying to find books that speak to the spirit, that nurture the spirit of the Black child and whoever is reading this to their children. And so that was really lovely. And then in the second section, this is where she gets into the book list, and this is divided into the early years. So we have 2 to 4 years old, early elementary, late elementary, middle school, and high school. And what makes those book lists so good is that you can just tell that Amber's a reader. So the range of books are so wide. You have historical fiction, you have Afrofuturist books, you have mysteries. And I think when we're thinking of Black books, sometimes we just get narrowed into history. And when we think history, sometimes that's just code word for slavery. And Amber doesn't shy away from that as part of Black history, but she also tries to find books that help us imagine a Black future or think of an alternate type of Black history we may not have been aware of. So I have a 2.5-year-old. So I got really into the early year section, and actually I just came back from the library with like 10 books, and we're already just falling in love with some of those books because they're just so restful for the child's heart. And so I've really enjoyed looking through the book list, and I think people who are eager to widen their shelves will feel the same way. And when you're looking at these books, I think it would be important for you as a reader to keep in mind that Amber is not just giving you options of what you must do. What she's really saying is that this will make your life sweeter. And I mean, this book and her thinking has already made my life sweeter and has already added to our life in just the little books that we've gotten from the library already. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about Amber's writing style. Incredibly clear and forthright. She is not writing an academic paper, so she's not trying to give you why you should have a diverse book, but what she's really trying to sell you on is beauty in diversity, beauty in understanding Black culture. And you just it almost feels like a warm hug when you're reading her work, because you somehow end up seeing things like a prism, right? You see it in different lights the more you look at it. There was a section where she's talking about how, when we read classics that we have all deemed classics and we're just comfortable with that, we have to ask ourselves, for Black children who are reading that, what is the cost, right? So do they just end up imitating what they think is a style of beauty and not learning to appreciate their own beauty? And she does that without denigrating things we love. She's someone who loves, I don't know, Winnie the Pooh or something, but is saying, let's widen that canon and let's widen that from a place of love, not from a place of anger, which is just lovely. And she shares some funny tidbits, which I won't spoil for anyone who decides to read the book. Okay, so what will you get from this book that you're not just going to find by Googling or going to, I don't know, ChatGPT and saying, tell me great Black books, is you're going to have some real hidden gems in this book. And that's what they are, hidden gems, because in the back where she gives you the book list, Amber also writes like why that book has been included, right? And it's so lovely. You get to just hear her voice like describe things like a spunky little girl spends a day with grandma, which is sweet and just gives you a taste for that book. But that's not what I mean by hidden gems. In the first chapters, there are actually books that Amber will mention offhand as if these weren't amazing reads. So she talks about a book which I had never heard about before called Gladiolor Gardens, which is like a compilation of poetry written by a Black woman. And when you think about books, like maybe I'm thinking about like a Child's Garden of Verses, which most people know. This is an alternative to that, where you see like illustrations of Black children just lovely and having fun. And that's a book that I think Amber herself worked really hard to bring back into public view. Or she had recently introduced me by the book to Langston Hughes's, I think it was a periodical he created for young children called The Brownies Club. And those are hidden gems to me, right? Unless you were reading her work, you would not know that things like this existed, their richness, their whimsicality, which is another thing I love about her book list. Like, they just are so whimsical and joyful. And I think sometimes, especially for people who homeschool and perhaps do like Charlotte Mason, sometimes a lot of the books can be overly whimsical, but perhaps because Amber has also boys, she's able to find, for people who have boys who are thinking like, hey, I want to find books that they would enjoy too. And, boys should read girls' books and girls should read boys' books. But we also know that sometimes people are drawn to different things. And so she has different genres of books and different types of books that will appeal to both boys and girls. And so I think those are some real strengths about this book. So somebody might say, okay, Nendir, this sounds really great, but tell me the cons. And I don't think there are any big cons, but here are some things to consider about this book and to decide if it's for you or not. One thing when I was reading it that made me pause was who was not in this book and certain books that were excluded. Now, I understand that this is only one small book, and so you can't fit all the amazing authors. And, Amber herself says this, where she felt like by the time she was releasing, you would remember somebody or a new book would have come out, but you couldn't put it in her book. But one thing she said that really, I think, changed my mind about how I was thinking about who was left out was, you think about a book like Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keaton, you think, oh, that's such a classic that should be in here. But Amber's take was, I didn't just want to include books that had Black characters. I wanted books that also had Black authors as an homage to the Black author, who she says she encourages her children to view on par with Black athletes and scientists, And so I loved that take where, the books that you see here are really representative of people who are from that culture and who are able to speak to the experience. And so I thought that was really sweet. And they also introduced me to other Black authors who I may not have heard of unless I had read this book. So on a more personal note, I wanted to talk a bit about why this book challenged me and why I decided to read it. So I'm Nigerian, and that's very important for me to preserve for my daughter's culture. But she's grown up in America her whole life, and so has my husband, who's Haitian. And so as I was thinking to myself, a lot of the books we have for her are Nigeria focused, or they tell, I mean, like, I don't know, you guys might know Baby Goes to Market or Bees for Baby by Atinuke. So books like that. And I was thinking, she's going to grow up in a society where not everyone is Black, and I as a mother need to equip myself in understanding not just classic culture but African American culture, because with time I know that she will adapt to that. And so I was telling my husband recently that I felt scared because I didn't know necessarily how much to enter into this conversation or where to start. And so, somebody might think, oh, you just pick it up as a Black woman, but it's no, we all learn. And so this book was like a learning experience for me, and teaching me, start small and start here and expose your daughter to these beautiful images beyond what you're used to. And so it challenged me to think more widely about Black representation in America and Black representation in my own home. And so for that, I'm grateful. And let me see what else. I mean, when I was in the launch group, we had weekly meetings with Amber and her team. And it was just so lovely to hear how passionate she is about this book and how passionate she is about education. And you can see, because the book selections are not twaddle, as some might say. These are well written and some of the most well illustrated books, and I'll try and link a few of her suggestions that I really liked below. But if anyone is interested, I think this is a great read. It is quick, it is comforting. I don't know what other word to use, but it is comforting and it's quite illuminating. So Soul School is out and it is really good, and I think you will enjoy it regardless of who you are and where you come from. And yes, so have a good day. Bye.